Okay, guys. So, first, I'm just going to start off with a little bit about me very quickly. I serve as your teaching assistant. I'm sure a lot of you have already had TAs. My role in this class is to host weekly study sessions. They will not always be at this time. This was just the time that worked best for everybody for the first week. Most of them will be recorded. So if you're watching the recording, I will record most of my sessions the same way. This is my fourth semester as a TA for Dr. Arnett, and I took this class my fall semester, my freshman year. So I have been with Dr. Arnett in some capacity for 5 semesters of my 6 semesters here at UC. So this session is just showing some tips, some tricks that I've seen in my experience either working with students or as a student in this class itself. And the first part is we're just going to really break down the grading scale and the badge system because I do know that it's confusing. To my knowledge, there's only one other professor that uses this system in one other class, and that's an upper level science class. So for most of you, I'm assuming this is your introduction to the specs, grading, and the badge system. Okay, so here is basically just copied and, this is just copied and pasted from your syllabus. And I want to start this by saying that this is not a penalty system. If you check all the boxes in A to earn an A, except you only passed 9 of the e-learn homeworks instead of 10, you will still get the A. It's not a penalty system. It's which one you check the most boxes in. Okay, I know a lot of students are like, oh my gosh, if I fail one homework or if I do one thing wrong, it's not a penalty system. This is actually a system that's a lot more forgiving. I know it seems scary, but this is always in your syllabus. And towards the end of the semester, if you want to sit down with me or Dr. Arnett and help like calculate about what grade you have now, just let us know. And we'll say, well, you're kind of in the C range, you're kind of in the B range or whatnot. Okay, and again, this is in your syllabus. Your syllabus is your best friend, as always. Okay, so know your badges. You guys get six badges, and there is no way to earn more. So you only get 6. That's it. Use them wisely. So as Mackenzie was asking earlier, these can be used to redo an assignment if you fail it. If you just forget about an assignment and don't do it, then this can be used to unlock that assignment. The thing is, I want you all to be very clear that when you email Dr. Arnett to use a badge for an assignment, she will give you 24 hours from that date of the email to do this. So if you failed, say, research lesson 3 and you have no idea why you failed it, go to a tutoring appointment. Meet with me. I'm also a tutor, so if you come to me, I'll probably ask you to make a tutoring appointment, but go to a tutor. Go to Dr. Arnett. Ask questions. Don't email her about the badges until you are ready to edit and submit. If you don't know what you did wrong, wait. Or if it's just a stupid mistake and you look at it and you're like, oh my God, why did I do that? I know exactly what I did wrong. Then you're good to email her, fix it. It's fine. Just make sure that you're aware that from that email you only have 24 hours. So another thing I want to stress is you cannot use your badges on the research paper or the exams. I think that's kind of self-explanatory, but research paper and the exams you can't use your badges on. mainly, the main thing that we want to make sure you pass is research lesson 3, which is why it is worth 3 badges. It's the biggest one. The other research lessons are worth 2 badges to redo, so that's research lesson 1, 2, 4, and 5. And then the e-learn homework and the in-class activities are only worth 1 badge. Now, there are some important limitations to the badges. The in-class activities, if you want to redo an in-class activity, you have to ask before the exam on that material. So if you miss the in-class activity on the cell membrane and you get to the end of the semester and you realize that you miss it, you won't be able to make that up. The cell membrane, I believe, is on exam 1, so you will have to make up that in-class activity before exam 1. Similar thing for the research lessons. All of these research lessons are set to make writing a paper more doable. Each one is like a stage of writing a paper. And the end goal of that research lesson is to use all of the stuff you learned to write your final paper. So all research lessons must be redone if you're going to redo them before the research paper is due. Does this make sense? Any questions on that? No questions? Thank you, Abby. Okay. All right, so now let's get into actually how you can be successful in this class. I know it can be intimidating, especially if you are out of the West Virginia school system and they don't teach biology to juniors and seniors for some reason. They only teach it to sophomores. So for some people, it's been 3+ years since they've had this stuff, and that's okay. These are tips and tricks that I've found, and yeah, let's go from there. So first we have the basics. Attend class and be on time. This is pretty self-explanatory. If you're not in class, the lectures are recorded, so make sure you go back and watch it. If you have a buddy in there, get their notes. Make sure that if you are not in class, that you get the material somehow. Now, if you have to attend online, make sure that you email either Dr. Arnett or myself, preferably Dr. Arnett, and tell her that you are going to be online for this amount of time, so we can look for you there. Now, also, this will bring me into attendance is a grade-ish. We don't really care unless you miss more than 3 days. Once you hit that 4-day mark, that's when we start to care, and that's when it will start to affect your grade. So make sure you do your Socrative every single day. That is how I take attendance. I do not know all of y'all's smiling faces yet, so make sure that you're doing that Socrative so I can count you present. If for some reason you forget to do the Socrative and you remember like 30 minutes later and you're like, oh my God, I forgot to do that, you have to email me the same day of class. So if it's Wednesday and you're like, oh shoot, I think I forgot to do my Socrative on Monday, too bad. You have to email me Monday. And I might ask you, like, what did we go over in class? Or like, what color shirt was Dr. Arnett wearing, or something like that, if I don't specifically remember seeing you. Okay, so that's the attendance policy. I snuck that right in there. So the next thing is that I highly recommend that you guys take notes on the PowerPoint. I'm sure you have noticed, but Dr. Arnett writes a lot on her slides, and if you're just staring at a blank notebook trying to write what's already on the slides and what she's writing, it can get confusing. You can miss stuff, especially when we get into the newer chapters. So I would say print out the PowerPoint, or if you have a tablet, you can write on the PowerPoint, but that's my best advice. Next, if you have a question, ask. If you are online, ask in the chat box. I am monitoring the chat box through every lecture. If you're in seat, raise your hand. If for some reason you're not comfortable asking a question, shoot me an email after class. I will 100% try to answer it. And yeah. Next is make sure that you attend study sessions and or tutoring appointments. You all are already ahead of the game because you're here. We'll be holding probably weekly study sessions, and I will definitely hold a special study session before every exam. Excuse me, I dropped my pen. And as Dr. Arnett mentioned in class, I do see the exams, so that's a little incentive to come. And then I'm always available by email or the Remind app to answer simple questions. If it's just a, hey, what phase of mitosis do sister chromosomes separate or something? I can say, hey, that happens in anaphase. But if it is something that you want to have a conversation about, booking a tutoring appointment is the best way to go. And there are more biology tutors than just me, so don't feel like obligated to only come to me. There are many. Okay, so now we get into the meat and bones of this. How do I study? Because I don't know about you guys, but through high school, I did not study for a single thing and I made straight A's. I was just one that, like, I think material came into my brain through like osmosis or something. I just absorbed it and I didn't have to study and I did fine. You will very quickly learn that in college, that's not going to work. So the best way I have found to study is called metacognition, and that is thinking about thinking. So you're thinking about how you're studying. You're thinking about what you're thinking about at that moment. And another very important thing is you need to make sure that you're active in your studies and not passive. So some examples of passive studying is like if you're just reading your textbook, reading your notes, listening to lectures while you're sweeping your house or something. These are good, but don't use them as the only way to study. You need to actively study. That could be comparing your notes to the textbook. That could be rewatching lectures and highlighting things from your notes already. That could be explaining a topic to your mom or your cat or the wall. Just make sure that you are actively studying, as well as if you want to like passively read your textbook or read over your notes. Now, I know some people from the study session were at the First 2 Network summer camp last summer, and if you were, you've read this book. This is a direct copy and paste from the book Teach Yourself How to Learn by McGuire. I forget her first name. Very, very great book. I highly recommend it. Here are the cliff notes. She recommends 10 ways to practice metacognition. One is previewing material. So that doesn't mean trying to teach yourself the stuff. That literally just means, oh, what are we going over in biology? I'm going to open up the PowerPoint. Oh, we're going over parts of the cell. Okay, I think I know this, but I don't know this term. What is this term? Circle it and then try in the lecture to write down an exact definition for this term. So if you look over the PowerPoint and you're like, I have no idea what a lysosome is, circle it. So you know, hey, I need to pay attention to what she says a lysosome is because I've never seen this word before. 2 is preparing for active reading. 3 is paraphrasing. 4 is reading actively. Now, a lot of people get confused on what is reading actively. Reading actively is taking notes while reading. So preparing for active reading is number 2. What this author suggests that you do is look at the subtitles of your textbook and then write down questions that you have and then try to read the book paraphrase it, and then write down the answers to those questions as you're reading. That is actively engaging your brain. Number 5 is super important. Use your textbook even if it's not required. For this class, your textbook is free. It is on your eLearn page. We love free stuff here. Going to class and taking notes by hand. There's a lot of fancy ways to do that now. I have a Surface, so I just take notes by hand on my Surface. You can do it on the printed PowerPoints. You can do it on plain paper. If your handwriting is horrible, mine, I went through a stage where I had to type everything because my handwriting was horrendous. You can type it, but just make sure you're taking notes in class. So number 7 is doing homework without using solved examples as a guide. Teaching material to a real or imagined audience. This, I would say, is going to be your best tip in trying to survive Bio 130. Try to teach the material to your mom or to, I don't know, a stuffed teddy bear, something. Just talk it out loud. My mom, she always jokes that she never went to college, but she has a degree in biology, because before every exam, I will call her and try to explain this topic to her. Working in pairs or groups. We are in the land of COVID. I know it is harder to do. Zoom would work great. Teams would work great. I think there's like 4 chairs in the CT that's like in a circle, so 4 of you could go to the CT. Just make friends and study in pairs or groups. That is honestly the best way to study, because if you don't know something, chances are somebody else in your group will, and vice versa. So number 10 is creating practice exams. So me and my friend, we do this all the time, where we go through our material, we write out a practice test, and then we switch. So she will write out a practice test, and then I will try to take it like an actual test. So I know, hey, I know this part, but I missed every single question that asked about meiosis. So I need to go back and I need to look at meiosis. And that is going to help you prioritize your time, because we're in college. We do not have all the time in the world. So if you know something, you don't have to waste all your time restudying it. Focus on what you don't know. Okay? All right, so now based on your learning style, so all of you who have had university, I'm assuming you have taken the quiz to know your learning style. So if you're visual, I suggest drawing pictures or diagrams or charts to relate to a topic. If you're auditory, you can voice record Dr. Arnett's lectures. Now you don't really have to voice record it because it's all recorded and on YouTube. Verbal, I am verbal, so what I do is I explain what I learned to my mom, and read your notes out loud to yourself. My roommate can learn by just rewriting her notes a bunch of times, which is with reading and writing, and I am so jealous, because while she can just sit there quietly writing her notes, I'm having to read them aloud to myself so I can speak it and hear it at the same time. So the next one is reading and writing. Rewrite your notes after every class, so you have a working outline, and then multiple times before a test. Y'all, if you only remember one thing from this session, rewriting your notes one time before a test is not enough studying. You need to study more than just rewriting your notes one time. So however you do it, it doesn't matter, but you need to rewrite your notes more times than just once. So lastly is kinesthetic. And this, I try to incorporate all of the above styles. Try to teach a topic to your friend by drawing a diagram, writing down key topics, and verbally explaining things with your hand motions. So this kind of ties in all of the above all of the above learning styles. Okay? So when do I need to start studying for an exam? This is a relative question. You guys should be reviewing your biology notes every single day you have biology. It can be for 30 minutes, it can be for an hour, but you need to be at least reviewing. Just like, hey, I need to go back and I need to look at what we went over today for 30 minutes to an hour every day. But when do you start hardcore studying? I recommend the 5-day study plan. So start with the topic that you're most confused about. Focus on that for 30 minutes to an hour. And then the next day, you are going to focus on a new topic and then review the first topic. And then you just keep adding on. And this is set up to where the day before the exam, you are studying no new material. The day before the exam should just be a broad review. And I'm pretty sure they still teach this in university. So if you want a detailed sheet of the 5-day study plan, I'm sure your PE can help you with that. Okay, but how much should I study? Start at least 5 days before the exam and study in periods of intense study sessions. So what I mean by intense study sessions is say, okay, I'm going to study biology for 30 minutes. I'm going to put my phone away. I'm going to shut my door. I am going to intensely study for 30 minutes, and then I am going to take a break for about 15 minutes, and then I'm going to come back. This just means that when you are studying for those 30 minutes, you are only focusing on that. And an app that is very helpful is the Pocket Points app. And this app, you can click on it and then shut your phone off, and then you earn points for however many minutes that you haven't been on your phone. And then you can turn those points into gift cards. They have really cool Amazon gift cards. I have gotten so many of those. And it's just an incentive to be like, okay, I need to really not look at my phone. I need to really focus on this intense study session. And then make sure that you take a break. I also got this from the book Teach Yourself How to Learn, but I kind of think that an hour intense study session is kind of too long, because I don't know about you all, but I think I have the attention span of a carrot. So I could not look at something for an hour and just only that. So 30 minutes I think is the best time, and then take a short break after. All right, so we studied, we're prepared. Now what about the test day? When it comes to test day, be confident. You need to walk in and you need to be like, I got this. I have studied. I am good. This leads back to if you're an athlete. If you walk into a basketball game and you're like, man, this other team, the guys are so good. I know we can't beat them. Oh my gosh, I'm going to lose. My coach is going to make me run laps or whatever they do now. If you come in with that mentality, you are probably going to lose. Any athlete can tell you that. The same thing goes with this test. If you walk in and you're like, man, I don't know if biology is the right place for me. This stuff is so hard. I don't know if I studied enough. I am stressing out. Then you're probably not going to do very well. You need to go in, and even if it's like a fake it until you make it situation, repeat, I got this. I can do this. This test is a piece of paper. I'm a whole human. I'm stronger than any test will ever be. And I am still very much in a fake it until you make it situation. If you say that enough, sooner or later, you're going to start to believe it just a little bit more than you did at the beginning. And that, my friend, is progress. So another thing is you need to identify your triggers. An example of this is a lot of caffeine. Now, I'm not saying don't drink your morning coffee, because you guys do not want to see me if I haven't had my morning coffee. But that means don't drink 3 cups. If you normally have 1, just drink 1. Because I have seen people who have been up since like 5 a.m. studying, and they're on like their 4th cup of coffee, and caffeine leads to jitteriness. And if you're jittery, your brain automatically thinks you're nervous or you're anxious, even if it's just the caffeine. All right, so starting the test, answer the questions that you know of first. You do not have to go in order. If you don't know question 1, skip it. It's okay. Budget your time. If you're just staring at a question and you're like, I have no earthly idea, did we even go over this? Skip it. It is okay. Answer the ones that you know first and then come back to it. Don't just stare blankly at a question, because all of these exams are timed. So you need to budget your time. Last one is something that I've seen a lot of students, including myself, struggle with. If you know the answer right off, I want you to circle it immediately and then skip it. Well, not skip it, but move on and do not look at it again. Because me personally, I look at it and I'm like, oh, I know the answer C. And then I'm like 3 questions down and I'm like, but that was really easy. Is the answer C? Maybe it's A. But D sounds really scientific. Maybe it's D. Don't do that. If in your gut you know it's C, it is 97.5% most of the time it is C. Okay? Okay, so answering the questions. Most of the questions in this class and in all of your science classes from this point on are going to be critical thinking questions. They will not be the straight definition questions that we've seen in high school. These will mostly be critical thinking. Read the question and underline the key concepts, and then go through the answers and cross out the ones that are nonsense or that we did not discuss in class. I know this is hard to do because all the exams are online, but if you can mentally say, okay, it's not A, that makes no sense. Okay, it's not B because we didn't go over it in class. And this is another thing. If we did not go over it in class, it is not a test answer. I know sometimes that Dr. Arnett will just put scientific sounding things as an answer choice, but if we did not go over it, it is not the answer, I promise. Okay? And then most importantly for a test, just relax and trust your gut. Okay? So I'm going to go ahead and stop the recording for now. That's fine, Caitlin. But I am going to go ahead and stop the recording for now. Please hang around. But before I stop the recording, does anybody have any questions on the material that I went over? Any questions? Any concerns? Going once?